Okay, you've got an hour and a half with somebody that's got a portfolio of $10.9 million in property. What are the questions that you're going to ask? We get pretty specific with this guy. This is Daniel Dominguez. Now, he is not from anything special. Moved to Australia in 2002 from Brazil, and he has almost an $11 million property portfolio. And this is an awesome session. We unpack kind of the due diligence process that he thinks about things. What are the frameworks that he uses? Because you can't just get to $11 million property portfolio without doing a little bit of work, without thinking. But he is absolutely obsessed with property. And the way that he thinks about going about getting deals is very different to how a first-time investor thinks about it. So I think there's a lot to learn from this session. And like, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Hey, everyone. My name's Joe Tucker. And together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors, Australia's largest property investment community. We've got over 83,000 members. Off the back of that, we have the Level Up Property course, which teaches everyday Aussies how to buy and successfully build property portfolios. And this week, no different. We got experts on, and you can unpack and learn from their wisdom. We've got Daniel Dominguez, $11 million property portfolio. Let's jump in. Throw in your questions, throw in your comments. He's very active on the social, so if you want to learn and grow, let us know.
Sorry. Yes. Investors, bring the big names and we have the big fun. Guys, we have a $10.9 million. It just sounds easy to say $11 million. Sorry, Dan. We have the person returning after a year. He has done some cool stuff. He's building some cool stuff. He's going to talk to us about strategy, what to buy, and where to find those hotspots before they show up in the data. So if that got me excited. So I'm excited for this session. Dan, how you going?
Thank you. Very nice to be back, boys. And I'm very excited as well. So I've been sort of thinking about a lot of the topics today, and I'm really excited to have a conversation with the community. And I've been pumping those comments in the Facebook today just to see if I can build up some momentum and get people excited as well and come in and join the chat today.
That's what we like to hear. How good is it?
What we like to hear. Yeah, man, this is going to be a really good session. I'm excited for it because I think that, like, you've done something. I forgot the date. What time did you come to Australia? What was like the year that you arrived?
2002, probably.
2002, yeah. So I came as an international student back in 2002. I have a bit of a story there, but I can go into it a little bit later. Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. Like, you've come to Australia. You've been here a little while, but you've built an $11 million property portfolio. Like what we were talking about offline, I was like, can you comprehend that in 10 years' time, if we just followed a basic growth rate, that sucker's going to be, if doing nothing, is going to be $20 million, which is...
We won't talk about what I suggested it could be at $2 million. So we just never know, Joe, because we could all be in caves. And fighting with sticks, but you just never know.
Well, we need to fight AI, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. What happens if everybody, anyway, we won't go down that road hole too far. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting session, Dan, because you were on our show just under a year ago, actually, on the 2nd of October. And you have done some interesting things since then, I believe. You've done one or two things. So we'll unpack about that. What have you, portfolio update? But before we do, Joe, how are you going?
Man, I'm good. I'm ready to go. You just can carry on. Don't worry about me.
No. I mean,
you have the momentum.
The welfare of the guests and the host is very important. We need to consider
welfare check.
Yeah, welfare check. But no, it's good. It's hot. It's getting hot, which is exciting. And daylight saving for public service announcement for those in New South Wales and Victoria. You lose now, sleep on Sunday. The NRL Grand Finals on, Melbourne Storm versus Broncos. Not my two favourite teams, but anyway, that's okay. I'll just hope that somebody has a good game somewhere. But Dan, good to have you on. And you are, for those who didn't see you 12 months ago, you're a migrant, came to Australia, as we said, in 2002. And in under that, you're able to build that portfolio quite quickly once you sort of get started. I think you bought your PPOR or a property in 2008, 2009. So it took you a little bit to get going. Once you got that, you were learning English. So you came with very little. Your husband to a very supportive wife. I think that's important. You got two boys. Love that. Caught the property bug after buying that PPOR, and you're now a property enthusiast with a mere $10.9 million portfolio, including houses, duplexes, rooming houses, and what we will talk a little bit about tonight is you've got an AI native platform that helps reveal those hotspots and risk zones before they even show up. So it's called Pocket Hunter. Kind of reminds me of Pokemon. But Dan, first question is: it's almost been a year, one day short. What have you been up to? What's happened in the Dan Dominguez property investing journey in the last 12 months?
Yeah, I was preparing for the chat today, and I had on my notes exactly that. Like, it's been about a year, but I didn't realize it was actually just a day apart. So almost to the dot. So looking back at what I have done in the last year, I would say it hasn't been a very active year in terms of building the portfolio, because you get to a point is actually it gets extremely hard to sort of play with serviceability and continue to build the portfolio. But I purchased a property back in May, so I purchased my second rooming house down in Ballarat. So it's a 8-bedroom rooming house, all tenanted as we speak, running smoothly. So things are looking good. Yeah, really
so
good.
it was already built? It was someone built it?
Correct. So funny thing is that I wanted to buy. I was intended to buy a building block. I'm in the stage where I'm looking for cash flow deals. So I wanted to buy a block of units.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I wanted to get a block of units. But then my lender said that I could not go for a block of units. If I wanted, I could buy another rooming house because I had the one in Queensland. However, I could not build one. They only approved me to buy an existing one up to a certain threshold. So I was really hands tied on.
They're very negative on the rooming houses and building those at the moment. I mean, I'm sure if you get the right LVR or grease the right palms, you can probably do it. But it is possible, but it's just extremely hard. They don't like them. NDIS as well. Very hard to build a new NDIS at the moment. Existing, so you're right. Go on.
What I like about this even so far is rejection. Well, okay, what is the solution? What can I buy? It's like so many. I mean, people. I mean, I put my own hand up for this. When you've spoken to a broker and they're like, oh, you can't borrow anymore. You're like, oh, cool. Oh, yeah, right. Cool. Done with that. What did that actually look like when you're chatting with the broker? Like because you probably went them to say, hey, I want to buy a block of units. No. And how does that conversation go to get to?
It was getting worse by the minute. The funny thing is that every time that I spoke with the broker, it was coming back. Oh, by the way, the lender has just changed the policy, and because it's 8 bedrooms and not 5, like the one that you have in Queensland, now you need a higher deposit, and the interest rate is, by the way, is not the one that I gave you. It's actually a little bit higher because they you just kept getting a lot of sort of objections in terms of what they would approve me to purchase. But I know what I needed to get to continue to sort of have to get to my goals. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about the strategy and hitting your goals and setting them up a little bit later. But I knew what I needed to get to a little bit closer to my goals. And that was a property that would cash flow. And this deal itself, it's a 10.8 yield on the purchase price. So I'm getting
wangle that.
Yeah, so
it's a great negotiation.
So I'm getting $2,310 a week in rent out of the 8 rooms. And I paid 1.1 on the rooming house.
What's the what are the management fees on anyway? Because is it that sort of 10 to 15% that you hear?
No, it's 8%. It's not different from a normal residential. That is just I'll probably pay a couple of more fees in terms of lease renewals and stuff, because you tend to do like 6 months leases as opposed to 12 or longer. But the management fee itself is about 8%. So it was a lot of objections on getting the pre-approval. And when I got the pre-approval, look, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I need to get. So let's just find that specific project that basically ticks all the box. And it was hard to find, but I ended up actually finding it myself. So I ended up actually going and reaching out to a lot of property managers, and one of them, by the way, the one is actually looking to sell. So we took it from there.
There you go. And
so
I
that was
think
like an off-market deal.
Oh,
It was off market because it was not advertised. Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on,
that
Jeff.
kind of that sets up the conversation very nicely because we're talking here about how to know what to buy next. So it'd be great to unpack that a little bit because everybody says, well, where do I buy? What do I buy? How do I make it happen? And you've just told us a synopsis of that very, very briefly. So that'll unfold before your eyes. And you've got some really, I think it's revolutionary is a big word, but it's some very interesting tech at least. But Dan, how did you even sort of take us back to, okay, before you were looking for this property in Ballarat, how did you decide? You said you wanted cash flow, but what was that sort of process for you to reach that rooming house you're going to buy?
Yeah, look. Before I get that, I want to make sure that we have a very interactive session today. And I just have something that's going to take just a minute to show it, and I'm hoping. Let me just share my screen. So just give me 1 second.
We're going straight to go straight to the good stuff, are we?
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna sort of throw some snippets of things. So I just want to share a freebie with the audience today. Share screen. Sorry, I'm not familiar with this platform.
Yeah, we should have actually tested the screen share before you.
It's more fun not to. I want to know how while Dan's getting his text sorted, I want in the comments because this is an interactive session. How's everybody feeling at the 1 of October about that sort of impending? It's now here. The sun's still risen today. Drop some things in the comments on that. Dan's getting it up. It's a funny way because I was having a conversation with a friend and I just said, I think in 12 months' time you're going to be complaining about missing out on $100,000. So yeah, how's everybody else feeling about that anyway? Is this working?
Is the screen sharing okay?
Sharing,
yep.
Yeah. But there's video.
We can see.
I just wanna. Can you guys see the QR code on the top?
See the QR code? Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let me just play the video and then I'll explain what this is.
Do you want us to scan the QR code?
Probably.
To interact with it?
Isn't that what you do with the QR code?
That's the whole idea.
No, but like right now. Okay, fine.
Right now, scan it.
Okay, go on. Play your video.
Yeah. So basically, the first tool that we're sort of I'm bringing up to the market is I think it's very cool. So in a nutshell, what we are doing here is that we are building a public housing check that you can access via WhatsApp. And what you can sort of do here is scan the QR code. It's gonna prompt you to a website, and then from there you just follow the prompts, and it's gonna take you to WhatsApp, and then you just hit the message that subscribe, and you start putting your details. It's just gonna ask for your name and your email. That's all it does. And then once you get there, all you have to do is then type any address as per the example here, and then once you type the address, it's gonna give you back a snapshot of the public housing situation in that specific SA1 area, according to the ABS census that we last had in 2021. So in here is just one example. So for example, here I did earlier a snapshot from an address in Armadale in WA.
I know where that is. That's right near the station. I know exactly where that is. That's a very high concentration pocket of public housing from Armadale. So you I know pretty well.
So the idea here that you can see how much social housing it is actually present in that specific SA1 location. Sorry. So for example, in this address here, I have 152 residents, where 18 of them are actually living in social housing, which turns out to be 12% of the population. So there has been some stats that I've sort of been researching. And when you have about 18% of social housing in any given area, that could potentially impact 10 to 20% of the sale price. So if you're trying to sell a property in that area that you own, potentially could be sort of losing about 10, 20%. So social housing has definitely an impact on prices, and not only prices, but can also affect the quality of the tenant that you're going to get for that property. So with that snapshot, it allows you to quickly check that social housing data in less than a minute via WhatsApp. So you don't need to fast.
There you go. Got it
you
done.
don't need to
What did you check? What was the address?
We did our the deal that we have in Townsville. We understand that there is some social housing. This one has a 8% social housing.
It's not too bad. It's okay.
It's not too bad. Not too great. It's not great. It's 133 residents. So 10 of them are social housing.
It's fine. Good mix.
Yeah. So that's an example of some of the stuff that we're building. So this is just a bit of a teaser. The platform and the stuff that we're working on is still sort of in development, but this is something that I just want to share with the audience today for them to play around and you can continue to use and check your properties in there. So that's just a very cool way of sort of introducing and easing into the conversation, make sure that people get engaged because there is something in there for them. So
you needed to buy me dinner first, Dan. But anyway, it's all good. I got rid of Joe.
Oh.
Sorry, hello, Joe. So, Dan, we keep messing around with that. So, how do you think about strategy and property planning on where to buy next? So, we've just spoken about housing commission and said that maybe I'd be very interested to, if you could drop some of that research in the group, Dan, because I think that would be quite topical. So if you remember, I'll remind you, because I want to read these research reports that you're referring to, because I always say, okay, who says that? I want to know who. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Do you see, like, at the strategy planning and what to buy next, do you see this as more important necessarily than where you buy? How do you think about that?
That's just one piece of information because there is so many layers that you need to think about, from strategy all the way to the property management and then eventually refinancing and starting the whole cycle again. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen again just for a little second just to show something else, because I kind of want to take through the conversation today about all these different topics. And let me know if you can see the screen.
Okay, here we go. Property purchase.
Yeah.
It's a bit bigger.
Boots on the ground, strategy and foundation.
Well, that's basically the process that we spoke about the presentation about the chat today, and all the steps that I consider, like what do I go through when I'm purchasing my next property. So my view is there is 6 sort of distinct sort of steps that I probably think through along the way. And within those 6 steps, there is information, data, and research that you probably need to do at 3 different levels, being state, LGA, and suburb, and the property itself. So the 2 that for example, we just spoke about, it is just part of that last layer, which is the property itself. But there is so many things that you need to go through, even through due diligence, research, and even before that, actually setting up the strategy. So I'm going to probably break down the conversation in some of those topics. And if that's okay, and then we can probably have a conversation on what are the important things along the way, and then what are the considerations, the outcomes, and everything else that you probably need to think about in each one of those steps. How about that?
Sounds good. How does that sound? Does that make sense? No, it's good. I just knocked my microphone over. So, but Dan, like I sort of said, interesting. The reason, because a lot of people say that it doesn't matter about sort of where you doesn't matter where you buy, but to me, both are important. But I think a lot of people get so caught up on, I need to go and buy Mossman, or I need to go and buy in Townsville. And they sort of cotton onto these markets just as they're about to, and then they compromise on the asset. So for me, and you bought some duplex in your thing, but I think you sort of were focused on, the area, and then you also focus on the what. So the point I'm trying to make there is, I think it's important that you consider both, rather than just saying, okay, great, I'm going to go and buy Townsville and whatever I can buy. It doesn't matter, but you need to sort of layer those things, as you said. So that was kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
I think.
Look, the property is the last thing that you need to think about, because there is no point start search on real estate. How does that property look like if you have no idea what you're looking for? You only know what you're looking for once you sort of have gone through some of those things. So where I usually start, and it goes back to the most fundamental thing, is that first step, which is the strategy and setting the foundations. And in that step, what I go through in my mind is basically thinking about what is my end goal and what is my strategy path to get there. So, and that could be a number of ways of getting there, and it could be a number of different asset classes. But today we're talking about property, of course. So looking at property, there is, of course, two different assets not so much two different assets, but there's two types of property that you can go. You can go for a growth type of asset, or some sort of equity growth deal, so something that you're going to get like some chunk of money at some stage, or you go for a cash flow. And you're probably going to need those different type of assets in different time, in different sort of stages of your portfolio building. It could be that you are at the beginning of your journey, and then you're most likely going to need some growth property in there. You're going to need to build equity. And if that's what you need, there is no point looking for a regional deal or a rooming house, something that's going to give you the cash flow, because that's not what you need at that stage. So before you think about the asset, you need to think about what's your goal and what's your strategy and what's the type of property that's going to get you there, to be able to think about, to start sort of thinking about the area and everything else in there. So
what are some of like variables within that, right? Like, I mean, my goal is to make a bazillion dollars, right? Like, I want to make the most amount of money in the quickest amount of time. How should I?
A trillion, mate. 5 million is good for me. Unencumbered, that is.
Yeah, 5 million unencumbered. There you go. But how much? Like, I guess talk to me for more specifics. Like what? Like, because everyone wants capital growth and everyone wants cash flow, and now you're saying there's capital growth or there's cash flow. But when should I inject capital growth and when should I inject cash flow into my portfolio?
And I can give you a personal example. So in my portfolio, I've got 12 properties, including the PPOR. So 4 of them I myself manage super fund, and I can give a really sort of example. Within my portfolio, I actually have 2 separate strategies, because I have a strategy that I have defined for my self-managed super fund, and a strategy that I have outside of super, and they are quite different. So, for example, in my self-managed super fund, which I set up back in 2020, and I have bought 4 properties in there, my strategy from day one has always been about buying affordable properties that are in growth corridors and are slightly negatively gearing. More, I prefer if they are in a neutral position, like in that space, with a likelihood that with some rental growth over the next few years, it's going to become positive. So the key things in there, in sort of setting up my strategy and the path to get there for self-managed super fund, is looking for those properties that is gonna be in areas that is population growth, that is infrastructure spend, and I'm looking for yields from anywhere from 5, 6 to 8. You know that it's really hard to get like the high yields, especially now after some growth during after COVID times. But if you start getting in that 5, 6, and there is room to grow the rental income in the next few years, eventually get to 7 and 8 in a few years time. And then you start having that positively geared property. So that has been, for example, the strategy on my on my portfolio. So of course, not a financial advice here to anyone, but that has been my personal sort of strategy. And
I'm sorry to you, Joe. I said we'd do this at the start. So I started hearing SMSF and I was like, oh dear God. So as we say, this information general in nature, as Dan just said, go and seek your accountant and your SMSF, your financial planner to do that. There's been some great questions come through, Dan, and I love how you're really sort of absolutely nailing the things that people need to be thinking about, how to know what to buy next. Because to me, it's like, well, what do you want to achieve, and which structure and which entity you're looking to buy in, and then sort of you overlay the finance strategy, and then you start sort of going for gold. Somebody said, do you have a mentor, or did this evolve over time? Over time reminds me of sport, but yeah.
Look, anyone that knows me that knows that eventually I'm talking about real estate at some stage in the conversation. But I remember one of the posts that I posted in the community a while ago. It was kind of related to crypto, and I remember you mentioned something, Jeff, about an orange pill. And I wonder if there is an equivalent pill when somebody just talks about real estate. So I don't know which color would be the pill. If somebody's like a real estate
the green pill, Dan, the green pill, because it's money.
Yeah,
I mean, they always make money from property, but yeah. And on that, Joe, we'll let Joe have some words.
No, but I was just gonna say on that question, the mentor, not necessarily a mentor, but I highly leverage on the professionals around me. And just before you put the disclaimer, I was gonna say the professionals that you need to have a discussion about at that stage are at least your accountant and your broker, because you're gonna need to actually work it out how much you can borrow, what sort of
what stage is this for the SMSF?
No, on the strategy, on the sort of setting up the foundations and the strategy. You need to have a chat with your accountant and with your broker. And depending on how complex you're doing, such as a self-managed super fund, you would need a financial advisor, because there is a lot of specifics on self-managed super fund that you need to know. But if you don't know, you have to rely on the professionals, and they are there to assist you. And so in terms of mentors, those are probably the key people that I go after. And then, of course,
did you do any education? Did you do any courses or platforms or
where do I start? I have been doing courses probably since I started sort of investing in property.
Before Joe was born, probably, I reckon.
Yeah, well, let's run the level up property ad then. This is a good time.
I think if you name any of the courses out there from 2010 all the way to sort of COVID, I probably have done all of them. Like on the meetup a few weeks ago, I was saying, like, I feel like it's been a few years since I have been to a live event, but I used to go to that all the time. So I have done a number of courses, like you name it, like no money down deals or like overall education. Like I have done a lot of them, renovations and.
The one that I love the most, and you knew it, I was like the Rick Otten, that $1 how to buy a property for $1, and I was like, wow. I was super impressed that you knew that, because I was like, I remember listening to his podcast. I was like, oh, this guy's great. Like, it's like this Aussie bloke. Anyway, let's like he's this Bogan guy telling you how to buy it. It's like, yeah. So there's been on that note, and then I want to get more into this, the how to know what to buy, because somebody said, what was your favorite purchase and why? We're sort of
very good
going
question.
down memory lane.
Very good question. It's funny as while you think about that, I just want to point out a little note. Like, you've got a $10 million property portfolio and you have 12 properties. Like, that's crazy, isn't it? Like you think that, oh my gosh, this guy's a $10 million property. He must have 20, 30, 40, the numbers start to get a bit ridiculous. But like 12 is a ridiculous number. 12 is a fantastic number of properties, but it's it's not like, oh, it's not 20. So you've been able to consolidate. Sorry. But anyway, back to the
it is a large number. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Like it is, like you can see like a lot of podcasts and stuff, people with, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100. But you get to a point that you can only get to those numbers if you're running your own business. It's extremely hard to build a portfolio, I would say, past where I am now with like a 9-to-5 job, or like any type of job. Like it is extremely hard, because you just end up getting stuck with serviceability. If it wasn't, for example, with super investment, I wouldn't have 12. I'll probably have like 8, because 4 of them in there. But reality is that you do get stuck because of that serviceability.
What was that question you popped up there, Jeff?
My favorite property.
What was your favorite purchase and why?
I think like I can't pinpoint one, but like if I'm looking at this point in time, one of my self-managed super fund purchases, and the reason why I put Armadale in that example is because I bought a villa in 2021 in Armadale, a 3-bedroom villa just next to the station, for $205,000. It is now estimated to be worth $470. So it has more than doubled in a period of 4 years, and the rental income is like $550 per week. So I'm getting like a stupid yield on on a normal residential property. Like I'm getting the same yield on a residential property that I'm getting on a rooming house. So it is probably my favorite at the moment, but not to say that I don't have others that I really like it too.
How do you just on, because we're going off topic, I'm rabbit hole guy tonight or tangent. Wanted to know, how do you respond to people that say, look, it's great you purchased that property for 210,000, 205,000 back in 2021. You can't do that today. How do you answer that question when people come to you with that kind of equation?
Look, the market is dynamic. The 10 years prior to that, Armadale did nothing. In fact, if I look at the history of the purchase, I paid 205, but the person that bought before me paid 250, and that was like 80 years before me. So for a period of 10 years, the market did nothing. In fact, actually went backwards. So what is to say that in 10 years' time, not saying that it will be the case, but it could be that it could go backwards again. And at this point in time, it looks great, but it doesn't mean that you could probably have a different dynamic in 5-10 years' time. So, and what's to say that another area now that maybe can still buy a property for, I don't know, it is hard to buy a property at $200,000 these days, but you could still buy a property in like regional, and we're talking about a villa. It's not a house. Like you can still buy a townhouse, or like I bought a unit in Townsville last year for 245, 2-bedroom unit. It has appreciated a fair bit in the last 12 months, but you can still buy property around, like affordable properties for 250 to 350. But it's just, is that property fits with your strategy? And that's the key thing. Like if it doesn't fit, then there is no point looking at it.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, I'm going to stop the questions. There's been some, keep the questions flowing through, Joe. Where do you want to go next in terms of how to know what to buy next?
Well, I'm more interested in boots on the ground type of, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about for this episode. So like, what do we need to be thinking about? Because I think, like, how do you think about boots on the ground? How do you think about that more? Okay, we've done our macro strategy. I'm just starting out, and as you kind of noted, we're buying initially growth focused assets because that's what we have to do, because saving $100,000 or $80,000 for a deposit sucks, and I don't want to keep doing that. And if I've got 2 properties growing at 5, 7, 10%, I can get my deposit. If it's growing at 10% on a 500,000, that's 50 grand. Great, I've done that in 2 to 3 years. Great, I've got another 100 grand. Great, let's keep going. So let's say growth is the focus. We're now going to look for an asset. How do we think about boots on the ground?
All right. So following my logic, the next step would have been about building the buying approach. So you know what you want. So let's say you're going for a growth type of property. You have your pre-approval. You know how much you can spend. Then you need to start thinking about what are the areas that I can go after to find that type of property. Also, you need to consider, do I know enough to actually do all this research by myself? Do I need help? And going back to the education point, do I need to sort of go back and educate myself first? Or do I want to potentially outsource instead of doing that all by myself? Do I want to use a buyer's agent? And I'm the first one to say I have done both. I have purchased property myself, and I have used buyer's agents. And in fact, I think my last 6, 7 transactions, I have used the buyer's agents all the time. Even on the rooming house, I did the research myself. I found the property because I was talking to the property manager. But the moment that I found the property, I just reached out to a buyer's agent, negotiate it for me, please. I just used the buyer's agent to do the negotiation piece, which kind of a little bit of a different deal, but was just to get some help on a specific for that. So it's just understanding where you probably your gaps are. Yeah. So it's just
identifying your gaps.
Yeah, identify the gaps and where you need help, and then take it from there. So once you work it out, how we are going about and how we are finding the area and working out which professionals that you need. So in this case, if you're using a BA or not, or that type of stuff, then
so at what point, like, I guess this might sound like a silly question, but like, at what point do you use a buyer's agent and when do you not use a buyer's agent? How do you think about that?
typically, if for example, if I'm buying anywhere that I have no knowledge of the area itself, because I don't live nearby, or if I have, especially if I'm buying interstate, I don't know the areas. I don't know, even with all the research, you're never not gonna know all the specifics, ins and outs of that area. So I think that's to me, it's a great sort of calling where you're probably gonna need some help, and you can probably bridge that gap by, for example, calling a lot of property managers and in the area and sort of identifying specific pockets in areas that you should be buying, because you can get some feedback. But it depends how much time that you have available to do that, because I think one of the key things is when to use a buyer's agent is how much time you have allocated to do that, and the speed to market. For example, every time that I use a buyer's agent, it takes, I would say, like within 4 to 6 weeks, I found a deal and I'm sort of contracts exchanged and just waiting for settlement, because the moment that I know what I want and I briefing the buyer's agent, I typically will start getting some deals, and then I start sort of doing my due diligence and start sort of crunching some numbers. And the moment that I found one, let's go, and then not wasting time. So I think that if I'm using a buyer's agent, one of the things that I take into account is that I'm probably going to get a deal a lot quicker than I would if I'm sort of doing all the research and things by myself. So it depends. Do I want to buy a property in the next 4 to 6 weeks, or do I want to drag this on for, like, I don't know, maybe 6 months, because I'll have to do everything on my own and save some money there. So to me, I see a value in the transaction, and that's why I use it. Yeah.
I just love I love the thrill of the chase to some extent, particularly for my own properties. Doing it for somebody else, maybe not so much, but because Elijah said, love that negotiation techniques are hard to implement when you're working 9 to 5. I would say, Elijah, and to you, Dan, as well. I remember Marcy. She's been on the show, so jump on YouTube. She's great. And even myself, I remember back in 2019 when I was looking to snag development deals, I was literally going into a meeting room and having those conversations with real estate agents in the area. So, yeah. I was just making it happen and that's Marcy was doing it in between. She was texting in between, sort of cooking meals for people. So yeah, I suppose it depends on how passionate and how interested you are. And yeah, we'll take it maybe a little bit longer, but it depends on your approach, I suppose. Buyers agents
I think it's important to sort of go through the process. And if you just purchase your own property and you go through the process yourself, and then you use a buyer's agent, and especially if you're using a really good buyer's agent, you see the difference. Like, oh, I didn't know that I could do that. Like, you just get a complete different sort of experience of the process, and you see, oh, I didn't know, like, all the stuff that you have no idea that you should even know about it. Like, it's the stuff that you don't know because you just never come across. So a lot of those specific examples, and I give an example when I built when I built the duplex, I used a buyer's agent that's in Lake Macquarie, and the guy was fantastic. Like the proactiveness of finding a block of land, and because I was like, oh, I want to build a duplex, but I didn't know anything about it, and he's going, oh, you're gonna need at least 20 minutes frontage. You should buy something in a street that has some precedence. So let's look for somebody that has already built a duplex in that same street or in the area. And he found me a block of land, but he had already called the council. Like, I spoke with the council. There is precedent in the street. So all those things,
the right questions about
I didn't even know that I need to look at. And probably if I had done by myself, I would have probably bought a block that was too narrow to build a duplex. But just all those things that you don't know, but you need to know. Yeah.
Okay, so we hit research and select. So we built the buying approach. We talked about kind of. Yep. Did we talk about research?
I was just gonna say, out of that step 2, the most important thing that you need is a brief, because regardless if you're buying yourself or if you engage in a buyer's agent, you need to be clear what you're after. And not only to the buyer's agent, but actually to yourself, because the moment that you start seeing the properties coming back to you, if you're using a buyer's agent, or you start looking on real estate or domain, you will start getting sidetracked looking at all these beautiful properties. But if they're not ticking all your boxes, and when I say boxes, what are the things that are non-negotiable to you? And going back to my example on my strategy on self-managed super fund, If I'm looking for a property that's in a growth area, has a certain yield, it has specific sort of metrics, if they're not ticking those non-negotiable boxes, I shouldn't be considering them. So there is no point in even looking at them. So that's just an example that I think it's important to make sure that.
Okay, well, actually, probably a good question. Like specifically, like what are some of the thresholds that you need to think about? Like population. How do you think about population? Like, is that what is it? What is population, and how to think about it?
So when I look at population, and there is fantastic tools out there that you probably don't need to spend a cent to actually have a look at, and I'm pretty sure you guys have a look at it at the Forecast ID websites, because you can have a lot of data about population growth and forecasts. So you can see areas that are sort of increasing at a higher rate than the rest of the country. So, and for whatever reason, there is most likely infrastructure, jobs, and a lot of sort of different projects within a specific pocket. And for example, as I said, like I bought in Townsville last year, and when I started looking at those things, population is growing because there is a lot of infrastructure spend. They were doing some port upgrade. There was an army base that is getting upgraded as well. More people working in the area. There was a hospital. Like all these things that just brings a lot of jobs. It brings a lot of people, and people sort of earning some decent incomes in there, and just ends up boosting the whole economy. So those are the things that I'm looking for, and in
that's
terms
more
of population
macro fundamentals.
Yes.
So population, you're looking for, a place that actually has net positive population. Do you have a threshold? Do you have like it has to be
20,000
minimum 20,000, minimum 50,000, minimum 100,000? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I look at is population, not population growth in isolation, but especially if I'm buying a regional town, I want to make sure that the regional town has at least 100,000 people in terms of population. It's just my own rule. It probably doesn't mean anything. Like maybe if it has 80,000, it's probably good enough. But for me, if it has 100,000 more, it's probably a plus. And I think, look, this is just me thinking out loud here without sort of any backing. But I think if you look at population growth in Australia in general, you're probably looking on an average, maybe population growth about 1%, I think, a year in terms of all, including immigration and natural births. So if you're looking at an area that increasing by 1% or more, it looks like that is going to put a lot of pressure on housing, and then from there you should sort of expect some growth on the back of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about breaking it down in terms of like simple terms, like I'm just sharing my screen now, like Melbourne 10-year growth rate 19.53 over the past 10 years. So that's around about 2% growth. Gold Coast Tweed has 22. But like if you guys, want to roll a similar way that Daniel is talking here, we just look at the map and see what is at 100,000. Where are 100? Sorry, I'm scrolling too fast. So June 2024.
Wollongong cuts the brief, Joe. And so does Geelong.
There you go. There you go. So it's the only regional centres that you've got the opportunity to buy in at 100,000 plus is Albury, Wodonga, Bendigo, Ballarat, Darwin, Toowoomba, Cairns, Townsville, Hobart, Geelong, Wollongong, Central Coast, Sunshine, Canberra, Newcastle, and it just keeps going up to the bigger ones. So it's like, if that's your threshold, like there's really not that many options. So you can actually cut down, like we talk about, like removing the junk off your plate, and your $100,000 people threshold there's nothing against that. It means population is growing, and it's good. It's got substance. But yeah, you've just knocked off all of this. You've knocked off Rockhampton, Coffs Harbour, Ballarat, Nowra, Davenport, blah, 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 blah. All of these bazillion places that you could be researching, but you would have been wasting your time on potentially. Not saying you are, but like having those rules allows you to cut out a whole heap of junk that may not be relevant for you, for your risk profile. But yeah, I love that. And it's funny because Ballarat's right on there. That's what you wrote. Like, well, I need 100,000. Great. 120 in Ballarat.
Speaking of that, I want to know, Dan, because I think that's a
cool.
really
Great
nice
question.
segue. Because Brendan, he's drilling in the comments. So I don't know if you chatted Brendan the thing, but he said, "Is there a list of non-negotiable for a selection?" So one of those is that 100K population. I mean, that's not a non-negotiable, but what else is that on that sort of list of things you won't do, Dan?
Look, I think it depends on each one. Like my non-negotiable on my self-managed super fund strategy was an area for growth. So my non-negotiable was population growth, if infrastructure, and the reason why I have 100,000 people in there, and not saying that I wouldn't buy in a town that has 80,000, it's just that when you get to a certain size, there is a bigger chance that economy is a little bit more diverse, and it doesn't need and is not extremely reliant on just one type of sector. So most likely you're not buying in a touristic area or a mining town.
Yeah, you're de-risking the investment.
Yes, correct. And that's the key reason is just to de-risk that thing. So to me, the non-negotiable is the population growth. So for example, you're never gonna see me buying in some pocket. We were having this chat earlier, but you're probably not gonna see me buying Tasmania because I can't see population growing in Tasmania for the next. And I know it grew a little bit in during COVID, but that's just my personal choice. I'm not saying that some pockets in Tasmania is not growing. And if you go back to that list that he had just there, Joe, I think there was some pockets like maybe in Hobart and specific pockets in Hobart. There is population growth, and that probably will be okay. But I would think there is other areas that are probably growing a lot more than Tasmania. But that's just a personal choice. So that non-negotiable, it comes down to your own sort of set of rules.
Yeah. So what are some of the other non-negotiables? Brendan asked a great question there of like, okay, great. Let's talk about this Ballarat deal. So rule number 1, 100,000 plus, like what else did you overlay on that deal to get this? So I guess it's not really a growth focused play as much as a cash flow play, but like what were some of the non-negotiables that you needed it to have?
Was the budget. So I had the pre-approval that was quite limited, so I couldn't go above 1.1. So the non-negotiable was actually the 1.1, which happens to be exactly what I purchased the property for, because I gave up on the deal and then ended up coming back to me. But anyway, that's a sort of besides the point on the deal. But
that's an important note.
Yeah, on the non-negotiables to me was the budget, was the yield. So
what yield were you chasing?
Well, I wanted to make sure it was cash flow positive. So if I'm paying, because it's a commercial loan, I'm paying, I was paying 7.7, I think to start with. It has come down a little bit. So with expenses, I was looking, I want at least 10%. So there is 2% sort of gap in there to cover for expenses and everything else. That's why I end up getting a deal at 10.8%, just to make sure that was on the positive spectrum.
And I imagine the LVR would have been for 60% on that. Were you 60, 65? What was the LVR on that one? 30 or 35. I think it might have been 35, I think. So you
sorry, 30% deposit, 65% LVR,
yeah, I thought so. That'd be the max.
Okay, so hang on. You just pulled a big number out there, 10% yield. You were like, I want to go find a 10% yielding house. They don't really exist.
No, they don't. They're hard to find.
Rooming houses.
Yes, they're rooming houses. So I don't know. You guys are looking to build a rooming house in regional Queensland, isn't it? So with rooming houses, it's extremely hard to actually buy them, especially the newer ones. You can probably find a lot of the not purposely built rooming houses because people tend to convert them. But they are a little bit harder to rent and sort of is not as good as I see in terms of the rental income. It just happened that the person that I bought from was actually doing some developments and needed the funds to actually continue to do something else. So it just happened that I was searching. I was inquiring about it off market with property managers, and I found one that happened that wanted to sell. So I think was just a little bit of not so much luck, but just sort of chasing the deal in a way. And
it's like one of the hard. Yeah.
What I was just gonna say, and the reason why I bought in Ballarat is because since the beginning of the year, there has been this view that Melbourne and some areas in some region of Victoria is going to be the next areas to potentially sort increase because they have been a little bit sort of subdued in the last few years. So my view is that let me try to get into these areas now whilst the market is not hot, because then I can probably negotiate. And it was exactly what happened. So it was just basically getting soon, probably a little bit sooner than I normally would on other areas that are probably getting a little bit warmer and hotter. But it was just the ability to be able to negotiate on my terms at that point in time. And I think over time that sort of I'll be able to reap the benefits on it.
Okay, but also your brief was so narrow. That's ridiculous. You can't. So where else were you looking?
I was actually talking to a buyer's agent about. So I was looking. Look, I started looking in Melbourne. Of course, I couldn't. But with 1.1, I couldn't buy a rooming house or in Melbourne. So I found a couple in. I forgot the name of the town. Moe.
Good old Moe. Jeez, that's
Moe and Morwell. There was a couple of in that pocket. Then I was looking Geelong. I was looking Ballarat, Bendigo, and Wodonga. And sort of whilst I'm looking, that this one popped up, and I jumped on it. That basically those are the areas that are looking within my budget and within my brief.
Joe, I reckon once you start looking, mate, it's like the yellow car phenomenon. It's the reticular activating system. Once you think and focus on that, they'll start popping up like left, right, and center. You won't be able to find enough of them.
If you do the work.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask this one before we throw to our first sponsor, because this is an interesting one from Chelsea. And she said, do you suggest property researchers, property strategists, all these different terms, as well as a buyer's agent, if you lack time and knowledge for your first home, first few properties, or you don't need both? Property researcher to me sounds like a data person. So for me, if you're going to a bigger one, which I'm pretty, I don't know, for me, the property researcher, it's like, you know, how the data scientists and all that, they have those. For me, that's kind of like a H tag. So if you're going, it's a platform. That's what I would sort of suggest. But but they do have these like property strategists and researchers these days, and I'm just like, that's kind of what your broker and your accountant will help you with. And then if you want to do it yourself, then you've got other platforms. If you want to do it somebody else with you, that's where your buyer's agent can come in. Property researcher, I don't know.
Okay, so let's just say buyer's agent, right? Like, should you use a buyer's agent if you lack the time and knowledge for your first property or your first few properties, or you don't need both? Like, how do you think about that?
Look, knowing what I know now, and of course going through a number of transactions like purchasing property, I find it a lot easier to transact the property with the help of a buyer's agent. It's down to your personal choice in terms of, do you see the value? I see the value. So I know there is a fee and there's an additional cost in there in terms of transaction. But my view is a cost that sometimes it can even sometimes even pays itself back in a sense that all the research and the knowledge and the things that you don't have, that sort of comes back to you and pay you off that way in sort of helping with the research and in the deal. But sometimes even in the negotiation, I remember there was a couple of deals that the BA managed to knock like 10, 15K out of the price, just because they know what questions to ask and sort of how to negotiate that deal a little bit better. Yeah.
How do you think about that question, Jeff?
I mean, if you're going to go down it's hard for me to answer that question, because I look at it. It's hard for me to go back to what I knew before I bought a few properties here and there. For me, the way today, I'd be reluctant to use one, to be very frank, because like I just don't know anybody who knows me and what I'm after as well as I do. And not to say, and there may be better negotiators out there than me. But for me, if I was going to use one, I would purely do it I would find the property myself. And then I would potentially get somebody to negotiate, but I reckon I could negotiate it myself anyway. So for me, I wouldn't, because, and it depends on how many properties you want to grow to, because if you want to build a 10, 15 property portfolio like Dan has, and yes, Dan, you pay for them, but you've done it over 10, 15 years. For me, if you're going to do it in 3 to 5 years, unless you've got a significant income, you're spending like if you're doing 5 deals, yeah, you could probably do buyer's agent fees. I'd negotiate with the buyer's agent, see if you can get a discount on their fees for a package deal. But at the same time, yeah, it's a lot of big expense if you're only earning 100, 150 household income. So that's why.
Yeah, but so's messing it up, right? Like the big point that I'm reading from this question here is if you lack time and knowledge, like you're going to have to pay for it, right? Like you can't, like time, you're going to have to pay for time. That's the biggest thing of buyer's agents. There's
a lot of really shit buyer's agents out there these days, though, Joe. I mean, and even back when I was doing it, there was some, that's
BAQ, the buyer's agent questions. We'll post that in the chat. So use these questions.
Already there. I did it.
Oh, you did it? Good man. Use these questions and that'll save you from getting a dodgy buyer's agent. But when it comes to time and knowledge, I think like I have a very bias because this is what I do day in and day out, but you put a part-time effort into something, you're going to get a part-time result. If you fucking love property investing and you're a Danny Dominguez type of guy or gal, then I think it's a great way, one, to get started and just watch them like a hawk and tell them at the beginning, I want to be a part of this entire thing. And that's actually, Jeff used a buyer's agent for his first purchase. Dan used it for his, I used it for my first purchase. And I kind of set the expectation of, I'm going to, oh, you didn't, Dan? Oh, you did your PPR. Oh, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah. And like, I was like, I'm going to watch you like a hawk and I'm going to do this. And then I got educated through the process, but also paid for education, also got the education going. But if you don't have the time and you don't have the knowledge, like you're spending $500, you're spending $500,000. If you're going to mess it up, don't mess it up. Get someone that's going to do it right and hopefully a good person.
What I found too, like when I was doing the properties that I purchased myself, like including my first PPOR, I think it took us 6 months of research every single weekend, looking at houses and stuff. It was our first property, of course, and we didn't know anything about it, but how much time and effort sort of you put a value on those 6 months and going through the process and then using a buyer's agent. And I think I'm a better buyer by using a service with someone else because I have some ideas to bounce off that person. And I'm constantly sort of checking and asking questions. And one thing
that's very good. I want to be copied in all the emails. Like that you send to the conveyancer, the client, I mean, not the client, the real estate agent and all the negotiations. That's actually.
Yeah. And not only that, but what I was going to say too is, and you should never trust everyone blindly because I'm not like, as you're saying, that there's possibly a lot of BAs in there that probably don't have the experience because it is a market now that I think there's a lot of new people coming up into that space as
it's scary. It really is scary.
And they have no experience in actually going through the whole process. So you just need to make sure that you do your research, check for references, and make sure that we're sort of dealing with somebody that has not only experience but has a lot of knowledge that can also help you with the process. That will probably be one of the key things.
Oh, here we go. Good. I feel like we kind of covered a little bit on the buyer's agent space, but questions to all three of you that have used buyer's agents. Did you find the experience? How did you find the first experience of it?
Well, shit. I didn't use one for my second, so I think that. I was thoroughly underwhelmed, and friends have used this one as well, and it was on paper they did well, but
I used. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like I had a shit experience as well. That's kind of how this entire thing kicked off because I used the cool guy, the guy with the flashy ads, the flashy cars, the bazillion driving sports cars and pinstripe suits. And I thought that was what is reality. No, reality is someone that's banging out calls and working agents and hustling to get deals. That's what it is. And that's what you got to go for.
And I can give an example. I have had one of the buyer's agents that I have used probably a number of different buyer's agents, probably 4 or 5 different buyer's agents throughout the whole sort of portfolio building. One of them, probably in terms of a bad experience, actually sent me a deal which in paper looked amazing, but then I started just let me just do some checks. It was like in a flooding zone. And it wasn't like barely, like it was in the, like he was a property that was impacted by flood in the past. And like, why you're sending him? Is like, it's a great deal. Like, oh, it is because it is in the flooding zone. That's why it's discounted. But and then like, from that moment, like I can't really trust your judgment anymore on that one. So like, it's just that you need to make sure that you're doing your checks as well. You can't just blindly trust.
Okay. Well, this is probably a good time. I want to transition into boots on the ground and more specific knowledge and what should we be thinking about looking at. You've talked about housing commission. You're probably going to talk about rent percentages. What are some of the things that we can do online and what are some of the things that we can do offline? But we do have to jump to a sponsor and then we'll be back to answer those.
Everywhere you look, someone else is making money in property except for you. Your mate, he just bought a house. It's already gone up $100,000. There's some bloke on Facebook. He's bragging about pulling in a 7% rental yield. Meanwhile, you're stuck scrolling real estate and domain, confused as hell and having no idea about where to start. Or maybe you're that mate that's got $100,000 in equity. You have a few properties under your belt, but you feel stuck. You're unsure about how to scale without over-leveraging and not knowing what the next right move is. So why does it feel like everyone else has some kind of secret that you're missing out on? It's because they do. There's a reason some people keep stacking properties while others sit on the sidelines stacking excuses. There's a reason why some investors buy under market value while others pay too much. There's a reason why investors know the hot spots before there's any heat. And there's a reason that some people build $150,000 in passive income while others just spend years thinking about it. And it comes down to knowledge. And that's exactly why Jeff Miles and I, Joe Tucker, created the Level Up Property course to hand you the exact step-by-step process that we've used to buy over $100 million worth of property in today's market. We've built Australia's largest property investment community with over 80,000 members, and we help everyday investors secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, all without wasting years of their life trying to figure it out the hard way. Making an uneducated decision on the biggest purchase in your life is just gambling with your future.
Stop it. Get some help.
And this isn't just another how to buy property course. Let's be clear though, this course isn't free. What? And neither should it be. This is our life's work. We've spent over 100 hours each on this course alone. Oh, babe. Okay, video number 3. Number 4 with million does... Fuck. Done. We've got decades of experience, millions of dollars in deals distilled into a repeatable process that you can take away for yourself. If you're looking for free advice, there's plenty of noise out there. You can go and find that if you'd like. But if you want real, actionable, step-by-step guided process that works in today's market, then this investment is going to change everything for you. By the time that you finish this course, you will have full confidence. You'll have every tool that you need to build an amazing portfolio if you act on it, right? Which is why we have mentoring built in. So we kick you up the butt to make sure that you're kicking your goals. So the real question is, how much longer are you going to watch everyone else making money in property before you jump in and start playing the property game properly? Because the sooner you start, the sooner you start winning.
Good line. Oh, see you, Jeff.
Good watching.
Sorry. See you, mate. We don't need you. Okay, cool. I love it. I love boots on the ground. So what made you what drove you to make this app? Like, why have you created this Pocket Hunter? What's the purpose of this? Like, why?
Look, I love real estate as you know, because otherwise I wouldn't be talking about real estate here today, and I wouldn't have come last year and have a conversation. And I just, it's something that really excites me, and I would like to work with real estate. So I have tried in the past also sort of build a different tool. So like during COVID, I was working on a completely different concept. I tried to launch something, learned a lot of the process, but just didn't really work out that way. So this time I'm partnering up with another investor that is a lot more technical than I am, and actually can solve for a lot of the problems that I couldn't solve in the previous sort of attempt. And together, we have trying to build something that we think it's useful and can bring real insights to the investor community. Because being an investor myself, I know the things that I would like to see, the tools that I would like to sort of have at my disposal. And those are the things that sort of we're working on. And in a sense, that's the type of stuff that we want to bring to the market.
And just quickly, there's one question that James asked, and he said, have you ever considered starting a business to increase serviceability? If so, what business would you start? I think he must have missed the start of the conversation about Pocket Hunter. Yeah. But no. So what are you? Why are you
not
passionate
starting?
about?
No. You would not start a prop tech business to increase serviceability, right? There's going to be no cash flow in a prop tech business. It's going to take a very long time. So this is not for serviceability.
You raise funds though, Joe, and then you can exit. I mean, isn't that the dream? Isn't that the entrepreneur's
you're not
dream?
getting an income. You're not getting income. He's going to have to pay himself as a salary.
He doesn't need income, mate. He's got $11 million portfolio, rooming house at 10.8% yield. He doesn't need the extra cash. He needs the funds. And then
you need something to do. You need something to do. That's what it is.
Look, the end game it is to work with real estate, and it is something that I'm passionate about. There is, of course, a plan. So we're building a few tools. There is a view that we can monetize the application at some stage with some of the additional things that we're working on at the moment, and ideally. There is a transition path to me in sort of moving into that role of sort of working with real estate through an application itself and sort of doing that.
Hope your boss isn't watching. That would be a bit awkward. or are you the boss? Hope your employees aren't.
I have a full non-disclosure, like it is disclosed. So like I have nothing to hide. So like I couldn't be hiding here. So like it is something that I have been working on the sidelines for a while. So
it's good. I like the corporates are opening up to that idea because it's tough. But then back to Joe's question, like what are the things that we sort of see? It's for the love of property. Yeah, definitely for the love of property, Hussein. What are those on the ground sort of considerations? Yes, it's renter, it's a owner percentage. Yes, it's housing commission. Yeah. What are the things that you think about in a deal?
Yeah. So once you have gone through all that initial process of strategy, brief, what I'm looking, then you start going to the areas and the type of property. So I think this is probably the most exciting bit for everyone, because then you start looking into areas, narrowing down what type of location and the type of property that you sort of you're gonna buy. So those are kind of the step 3 and 4 that I had on the chart before. So the research, selection, and the due diligence. So when you start looking into that, there is few things that you need to consider, and there is a number of tools that it is at your disposal that you should actually look at. So for example, in terms of due diligence, you're gonna have to check for bushfire, flooding, the demographics, so what type of sort of people live in the area, because it is families, it's retirees, so that will dictate what type of property that you should be buying to rent. Because and I use an example, like one of my properties that I have in Central Coast is inside like a golf course resort, and there's lots of retirees. So when I build the housing there, one of the key things is I'm building a single level house, because it can not only cater for a family, but it can also cater for retirees, because they don't want to go up and down the stairs. So this is the type of stuff that you need to think about when you're looking at all these things. So the demographics is one of them. So the other thing, sorry, just looking at my notes here before I completely lose my train of thought. So you look at the demographics, and for example, the social housing thing is just one component of that. But again, you need to look at what type of people living there, what type of income they have, what type of rental income you get out of it. Is the vacancy rates high or not in that area? Because it's going to take you time to actually get somebody to put in the property. And then you look at the expenses, the council, the strata, the insurance, the water, and all those things will sort of build a picture to actually just quickly do a cash flow analysis. What type of income I will get and yield I will get out of this deal once you start looking into that in a specific area. So the tools that I probably use for that type of stuff, I'm just going to name a few here, because I always like to see what people are using. Yeah. the different tools that the people use. For example, if I'm looking at the demographic and stuff, so as I said, the forecast ID is one tool that I use heavily, and I think it's great because you can see population, you can see migration movements, you can see forecasts, so you can see if an area is likely to increase population. And not only that, it tells you, for example, when I was buying in Ballarat, I bought in Mount Helen. And when you look at the areas in Ballarat that you have all the population growth, you can kind of see this kind of on the west side of Ballarat, so like Alfreton.
Minderee, maybe? Or
yeah, so all that sort of on the left-hand side, that's all the new development. So if you're buying a property in there, you should try to avoid buying in areas there's a lot of home and land package, because those are the areas that you probably have a lot of land releases, and prices are gonna sort of be impacted in terms of growth, because if you buy on a more established area, you're probably gonna get a better return for your capital growth. So that's just something that I sort of look. So I think this is a great tool, and I think if you're not using that, it's free, and there's so much information that you can get out of there that it is, for example, one of my top 5.
So what do you? Okay, so I'm on Ballarat now, City of Ballarat, under forecast.id of Ballarat. Yeah. What do I do now?
So if you go on the left-hand menu, that you can start looking at and drilling now on all the, for example, population summary. If you click on that, then it's going to give a breakdown of how the population, and then you should look into that, and you can sort of see how does it sort of the demographics start to break down within all those areas. Then there is a forecast, so you can see which pockets
and you
are
can filter it, right? Yes. Like you can see that. Yeah, look, who's got the most amount of forecast change. There's one area that's having, Bunkers Hill, I imagine this is probably more of your house and land packages. And this is where you got to kind of know the area a little bit more as well. But rural west is down. So the population is projected to lose people, which is probably not a great sign.
Correct. So that can help you pinpoint areas that you should buy. So to me, buying in a more established area close to the city center that you don't have a lot of those land releases is probably going to be a better outcome than actually buying in an area that has a lot of new green fields and a lot of construction happening, because you're going to have a lot of competition with new supply in that area. So that's just something that you can look at, and doesn't cost you anything. You can just have a look at
where else do you go? Because there's so much in this platform. Like where do you, what you're going to go to?
I go through all that. So you look at the population, look at the demographics, you look at the forecast, and some of the tabs, like for example, if you go into the components of change, if not mistaken, I think the third or fourth in there, that it actually tells you like it gives like, I can't remember, there was one area that tells you like, this area is going through some gentrification. Like you can actually find out some specifics and pockets, what's happening in those areas. So I think it's a great tool, and just take your time, read it, have a look at the area that's sort of your interest to buy, because you can get a lot of information out of it.
I don't know about you, Dan, and I mentioned this one to you before when we were doing the pre-chat. Open stats, and yes, we love microverbs as well. They're all. Microverbs is great. I just hope Luke isn't watching, but open stats just is much. The UI user interface, the user experience is much easier to navigate, and maybe that's because I don't pay for microverbs, but I just find that this is really navigation wise, it's fantastic to see it visually in front of you, kind of like your ID profile, but this kind of hones in on the rent to the owner and the demographics profile as well.
I think I find it quite interesting is what I like to see is trends across, because all of these things are like, you can get so much analysis paralysis. And I guess the quick warning for people is like, just don't get too bogged down into too many of the details, but just kind of look for trends. So like if we're going to do break-ins, violent, and motor vehicle theft, where are the reds for everything? So break-ins happen, believe it or not, quite a few places. And violent crime, though, there's a lot of violent crime. There's red. Okay, sorry. Break-ins, red all over. So it doesn't give you much. Violent. Okay, there's a lot of red up here and red down here. Motor vehicles. Okay, and then we're back to deeper reds down here. So this little pocket right here is giving you some indications of things. And then we have a look at the housing maps, and you can then see the public housing actually isn't that bad up here, but is a little bit up here, down here. You can then look at private rentals. There's a lot more renters down there. Where are all the owner occupiers living? Like it is a good little overview. Where's the disadvantage?
That's where our
here.
Steve Ignite was buying a lot in Wendouree, West Wendouree. That's still very social. Yeah, just above the lake.
Yeah, I've never been to Ballarat, but I've been looking in a lot of stuff in Ballarat for the past few months since my purchase in there. So you tend to get a bit of knowledge once you dip your toes into an area, but that you just have to do your research. So you really you bounce some ideas with the people that you're working with, your BA or someone else. But again, call the local property managers, because they're all going to give a lot of their insights. Especially if I'm buying a property, I will need somebody to manage, and they will actually tell you a lot of those things, and you can validate a lot of the data as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. You just look at the trends. Yeah.
Yeah. He said this is where your property manager and agents telling you boots on the ground comes into play. Out there data still relevant, because you can actually say, hey, look, I hear it's a little bit rough around this part. Is that still rough? Because you're the one who's driving those streets day in, day out. So you can tell me where there's burnouts and where there's cars in the front lawn, where it's a bit rougher, the hotter spots and the not spots kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's kind of a point, is that data, all that data we just showed you, right, is only based on the census. So it's 2021. Aren't we in 2025 right now? Like we're a few period, like we're a little ways away. But that's where those conversations are like, okay, great. Because if this place is losing housing commission or is losing places, those people have to go, like the areas that are getting better, well, where are the not so desirables going? You can't just, like, where are they actually going to? So it might look
Melbourne.
Terrible.
Melton. I just want to bring this comment up to acknowledge what was the name of the software platform? Hussein, it was called OpenStats. So do you want to drop that in the comments?
Well, I'll drop in the forecast ID. I think that's super valuable. And then I'll drop in the other one as well. What was the other platform that you were talking about there?
I was going to say another platform, like beyond real estate and domain, which I think it has a lot of insights from suburbs. I think another great tool, and I don't think it's not known, but I think it's probably not widely used, is a lot of the information that you can get out of SQM research when you're looking at specific suburb. Because going back to those trends, for example, if you want to have a look at how is the vacancy rates trending for a specific suburb, it's amazing. Like you can see that an area is getting tighter or not. And you can just do I think you have to go to then you have to type where you have the suburb, just type the suburb name or the postcode, and it will give you the
what suburb did you buy your rooming in?
What's Mount Helen? Just type Mount Helen.
Lewis, if you're watching, answer Joe's LinkedIn messages. He sent you about 40, so
yeah, what, Louis Christopher? How about bloody wake up to yourself, mate? Get us, come on here, come on the show. Tell us about your amazing platform that we're constantly showing people, but maybe he doesn't need to come on because we keep showing people. Maybe we should stop showing people these platforms. But this is awesome, right? Like, look at the ridiculousness. We are now starting to see an amazing trend of vacancies starting to tighten. But also in the same vein, you've then got in, what's this, 2023? It's like, oh my gosh, there's an amazing trend down, but also there's a trend up. But
so they say a balanced mark is anywhere between 2 and 3. I actually think like once you get to 1.5 and below 1, it's extremely tight, and then you're gonna start to see a lot of rental growth because there is not many properties up for rent, and then that's where you want to be. Like as a property investor, you invest in an area that you can see the trend going down, because that's going to put pressure on rents, and then sort of can help you to increase your yields in the near future.
As long as people can afford to pay more rent, though, that's the challenge. Because it's great if there's, I suppose, then you just kind of see.
Yeah, but these are vacant. This doesn't talk about rental growth, right? This just tells you how many available rentals there are. So the more people that get thrown into the area, the more population increase, the more people that are coming to Ballarat, they're going to. What else do you use SQM for?
There's a plenty of, like, if you just keep on, like, you look at the sales. Sorry, it's too small for me to read, but so the sold records, the asking price, asking rental, you can
just
have a look
through,
at
clicking
just click
through
it. You can see you can see a trend, and you can see, like, for example, houses are sort of increased. So are units in that sense, but you can see in some areas, like, how houses are probably going to be performing different than units, and that can give you some ideas of what type of property is actually better suited for that specific area if you're looking in an area, but and what to buy.
And I think that what's interesting is this little chart here as well. What's the kind of the weekly asking prices? Now, it's not an indication of what it's actually grown, but it is good to see what are the asking prices. You will see in a lot of suburbs, like if it's by the beach, like if we look at I bet it's going to prove me wrong now, but like Rockingham, for instance, you type in WA, you'll see this stuff jumping around a little bit. Like units up 16%. That might not be, it has proven me wrong, but yes,
because people stop buying houses there, Joe, so they've moved towards the more affordable asset because they're still excited about the area, but they can't afford to buy the 750K house in Rockingham.
Yeah, love it. Okay, any other platforms? I like this bit. This is fun. I'll post this.
Look, there are not necessarily platforms, but there are other things that not necessarily free, but I find it helpful, and I think most of the BAs that I have used leverage a lot of the research that comes from Terry Ryder and Hotspotting, for example. So if you're buying a property in a specific location, you can purchase those reports yourself, but sometimes the professionals they're using can sort of leverage some of that research as well. And it provides you with a ton of information about that area that you're looking at. So probably don't have the details in here of sort of how does the report look like, because it is a paid service, but
it's very expensive.
So some of the stuff can be quite pricey, but I think it's provides some good insights. If you don't have the time to do all that research yourself, you can go and just purchase a report, for example. But I also think
the last platform, I'm going to say that's the last one, and we'll throw on our second sponsor, and then let's go to Q&A, Dan, because we got to get you out of here.
Yep.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to policeyproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
Here we go. He's having a party as well, but anyway, no, we won't talk about the party. I hope I'll be going to that one, maybe. Anyway, so on that note of me, that was a moment for me. Has Dan got your moments when buying, and if so, were they sometimes you get more from the F-ups and near F-ups was the end of that? And I think that'll dovetail into one of Elijah's questions where he said, have to ask what structure you bought in. Because I know that's one of the ones we talked about, Dan, but tell us that story again.
New South Wales.
So got your moments. Yeah, the got your moments where you kind of messed up and you got the lessons from it.
Look, I like you guys had a session on trust last week, and I heard most of it. I think there was just a section that I missed out. And I think you covered a lot about trust in there, but I can give my example around trust is that, again, you need to consult with your accountant because it has depending on the state, you have different land tax thresholds. So it is important to understand the rules of land tax threshold because, for example, in Queensland works completely different than New South Wales. And I did not know that. So when I built my duplex...
Oh, you bought in New South Wales, okay.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Covered a year ago, Joe. Don't you remember, mate? I remember every last session like it was yesterday.
So when I built my duplex, I ended up doing through a trust. And looking back, was probably the wrong structure for it because especially being a brand new construction, I have all this depreciation that I have built over 10 years that I haven't been able to offset against any of my income because it's just sitting in the trust as a loss that just continue to carry over.
Did you speak to an accountant about that?
Yeah. So like, for example, the additional purchase that I have done is also on the same trust. So like, for example, the rooming houses are offsetting some of the losses because now I have income to it. So I have, and the view is that I'm going to be selling those duplexes. I'll probably say in the next 12, 18 months, and then I'll right that wrong eventually. But that's just an example. Like I have done plenty of mistakes, and you just don't know what you don't know. And if you're not asking the right questions to your accountant, if you're not asking your right questions to your broker, to all the professionals that you're sort of working around, you're bound to sort of make some mistakes, and they can cost you money. And that's just an example of something that I wish I knew back then. Yeah.
The thing I think is very powerful when you're having conversations with your broker, accountant, buyer's agent, maybe property manager as well, is that you're then able to realize the things you realize you're actually in a really fantastic position, or that there are other aspects of your financial life where you can actually bring that in. You go back and you recalculate, and you're like, instead of me earning 110, I'm actually earning 140. And I mean, I don't know how you don't realize that, but you can sort of, because you haven't thought about, you've just been head down, bum up. You haven't thought about what your tax return looks like for the last financial year, which is only just gone. But if you're not doing that for 3 to 6 months, and then you actually realize you're in a position where you can buy that next property. So that's what it can trigger you to go and investigate your own and look further at your own situation. So I think that's great too. Any other really big sort of no-nos or mistakes you feel you made, Dan, or even small ones?
I bought an off-the-plan unit in Cannon Hill in 2015.
Yep.
Look,
probably going right now, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like sometimes, like I can't remember who said that, but sometimes it's like purchasing in the wrong, like at the wrong time of the cycle is like a bad haircut. Like time will fix it, because I bought it in 2015, and there was so many block of units sort of being built at the same time. But it happened that during COVID, all that oversupply sort of was gone, and now it's going gangbusters. So if you just if you hold something long enough, eventually sort of you should sort of come up back to the trend. But if I had purchased in 2015 in a different area that I was actually growing, I could be well ahead where I am today. So so it's just one of those things. I didn't know any better. I bought enough off the plan, and I wouldn't do that deal again today. But today is actually like positive cash flow, so like it's actually not a bad asset to have it today. But if I could go back, would I do it again? Probably not.
Yeah. I want to ask this one.
Healed the wound. Yeah. Go on.
I want to ask this one, Joe, because I know how much Joe loves house and land packages are off the plan. Great insights, gents. I think somebody's planted a mole in the audience. Would you guys use Property Investors Company to buy off the plan for your investments? How do you think about that one, Joe? Does that get you a little bit sort of angry, or how do you feel about that? How do you emotionally react to that question? Okay,
so if someone's getting $40,000 or $50,000 for a commission off the back of a product, who's paying for it? Right. So the property's worth $500,000, but you're buying it for $540,000, $550,000. Like, some of these vows don't even stack up. Like, yeah, if you're, and especially if you're not paying a fee, like if you're not paying like a decent fee, you've got to pay to play. If you're not paying anything, you're the product. So if someone's like, oh my gosh, I got this amazing house and land package, it's going to be the best thing ever. Oh, what's your fee as a buyer? Oh, it's nothing. It's not very much. Well, then you're the product because they're making money out of you rather than just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. So yeah, these house and land package spruikers, yes, they talk about all this like what do they say? Like population growth, right? They use that population growth figure. You know how we looked at Ballarat and it had a 6.2%. Great. Here's a chart, 6.2%. This is getting the most amount of population. But what they don't tell you is there's 20,000 people going and there's 20,000 properties being built. So that doesn't work. Those numbers don't stack. So sorry, don't do it. Just buy established house. Do whatever you want. You know what?
And probably sort of looping back to the previous conversation, you can actually check on the council website how many DAs sort of have been sort of approved to build in that area. So you can see, like, you can actually see what's the pipeline of a lot of the supply coming. So if you are unsure, just have a look. Yeah. Like you can actually see that there is a lot of new supply coming, and then that could potentially sort of deter your property from actually growing because of the new supply.
Is that ABS as well? Point. Building approvals, yeah.
That is ABS data as well, but you can also have a look at the council website. It's a little bit harder to see in there, but I think the ABS has always a lag.
Each council's different. Yeah, but then when you get a good council, it does make it easier to see everything. But it's handy because then like it is supply and demand. We have a great chart. I might just bring it up, but let's jump to the next question. While I try and find this chart.
This was one from a bit earlier from Fiona Beadle. It was great to meet you, Fiona, at the live events as well. Thank you for coming to Hearts Pub. She's great. How much time each week do you commit to your portfolio, and when in the week do you do this? Very specific. I like it, Fiona. Thank you.
Yeah. Look, I never really sort of measure exactly, but all the properties have property managers, so I'm not managing them myself. I'm just managing the property manager in a way. So they come to you if there is an issue, and they come to you for decisions mostly. So most of it you can do via email. So you can do it one time when it's sort of convenient. I'll probably like in terms of paying some, like I pay a lot of the bills myself. Again, we had this chat last year. I don't know why I do it, but it's just probably I like to have control of probably paying the rates and then the water and whatever it is.
Keeps your finger on the pulse, that's for sure.
It does, and in a way, I keep usage like for example, there was some double the water usage. Oh, there must be something wrong here, and then there was a leakage. Like sometimes it's just some smaller things, but like it doesn't take me long just to pay a bill or that type of stuff. So probably maybe 10-15 minutes just organizing, paying bills on a weekly basis, plus I would say another maybe 20-30 minutes a week just managing the manager with sort of emails, maybe some phone calls. But most of the weeks there is not much happening. Like unless you're looking for a new tenant or screening some applicants, that there is not much to do. It's just dealing with maintenance.
Actually, random question for me, because we're building a rooming house. How much of an maintenance, not maintenance, but how much of a nuisance is the vacancies and the ins and the outs of it? Of a rooming house? Is it actually that annoying? Because I'm putting it up here in my head as about an 8 out of 10 in an annoying scale, but look, you're making 10% yield.
No. In Brisbane, it will be 3 years now that I have completed the construction, and I have the 5 rooms tenanted since day one.
Wow.
So it took me a week to actually get all the rooms pretty much filled. And in these 3 years, only 2 rooms actually, I had a bit of a turnover, like somebody left and somebody came in less than a week. So Brisbane, great. Like it's been almost 100%.
So you haven't had somebody move out? Am I understanding that
2
correctly?
of the rooms people moved out, and I filled in within a week.
3 years.
In 3 years, it has been great. So Brisbane has been pretty good. In Ballarat, where I just purchased, I purchased one of the rooms was vacant. Then as soon as I exchanged another room was vacant, but I filled them pretty quickly. Then I had an issue with a tenant. They had a fight with the girlfriend, broke the glass of the sliding door, did some damage. So I had to get him out of basically was in breach of the lease. So we have to get him out, get the property fixed. And in the meantime, one of the girls that was living in the other room didn't feel comfortable living there anymore because with the person still there while sort of going through the process. So I lost 2 people. I had to sort of fix up and replace them. Now it's all being tenanted and it's all good. But I feel like now I'm back to sort of a good rhythm. But like, so Ballarat has been a little bit different. I think maybe the demographic is a little bit different. But in Brisbane it has been like great. I couldn't, I can't really fault it. Like, it has been really good. Also, probably a key highlight in there is that the property manager that I have in Brisbane manages a ton of rooming houses. So they are really experienced and know what they're doing.
How much do they charge?
8%. 8%.
Nice.
Okay,
cool. Let's hit some of these other questions. While you pull them up, Jeff, will share this slide that I said I'll share. But it's just talking about. It's pretty much just
rapid, Joe. Unless there's any burning, we're at an hour and a half. I mean, I'm just wondering if it's full of Dan's time. But talk to this.
Yeah. Let's talk to the side. Why property price changes, why anything changes, because there's more people searching for less stock, the price is going to go up. If there's 2 people searching for 2 properties, then it's going to be balanced. If there's 1 person searching for 3, that's the problem with the house and land packages, all that good stuff. There's too much supply, not enough demand, not enough people searching for it. And they're going to say, they're coming, and it will change over the years and it will increase in price. But was that the best asset to purchase at that time? One of the things that came up is... in the comments and the questions that I kind of wanted to know the question. I don't like, you've got a $10 million property portfolio. Fucking pack it in. What are you doing? Like, why are you still going? Like, isn't this the dream? Isn't this what we get to? It's so funny when I meet an investor that gets to this level, because, you know, when we do these property strategies and we start the thing, we're like, cool, we want $150,000 of passive income. You could very much nearly have $150,000 of passive income.
Look,
what's the go?
I could, yeah. So I'm exactly that. So I built the portfolio so far, and looking at the portfolio itself, I don't need anything. I don't believe I need any more properties. Like, I don't think I ever would say that. Like, I have enough. I don't need to actually do anything else. If I do nothing, I know that will be fine. So I think it's a matter of optimizing and tweaking, and which is where I am at the moment. It is the consolidation. It's what I do next, and making sure that sort of those things are in there. So in terms of my plans and what I'm sort of planning to do to get me to that stage where I have the income that I want out of the portfolio, it is the challenge that I'm facing is that, apart from my old PPR, I never sold another property. I never sold an investment property. Like, I only bought them. Like, so the challenge that you get to this stage is like, when do I sell? Because I never actually gone to the reverse process. Like, those are the different challenges. But it's just like,
you got to let it go, Dan. Let it go, mate. It's okay. It's not there. There's not going to be a big hole open up in the ground, and you won't get swallowed up by it. I promise. I've sold a property or 2.
Yeah. No. I know. So my plan is, I haven't identified 3 properties that are probably, they have performed, but I just don't think they have performed as well as probably I wished. And the view is that I will sell them, but I just want to leverage this. I think we're in a period with the next 12, 18 months, we're going to get some growth because of the activity of first home buyers and sort of the flow on effect. And those properties are in areas that I would say that, and they are like in the budgets of what it would be a first home buyer. So I think they are going to grow in value. So I want to maximize that before I let them go. So I will sell them in the next 12, 18 months. And then
I'm going to hold it to you, Dan. I'm going to hold it to you, mate. You know that I will as well. I'll be because I've been telling him to do something, and he's
well, I'll be part of the keep me accountable post on a weekly basis.
The KPAM post. Keep me.
The final question is, Dan, are you happy? You've got a $11 million property portfolio. Are you happy?
I am happy. Like, as I said, I love property. Like, I love my family. I love being in this place. Like, one of the things that, like, I spoke before, like, grew up in Brazil. Like I had a great childhood. Like I can't really fault my sort of childhood and my teenage years. Like and I wouldn't probably switch or change anything. But I'm so grateful of the opportunity of coming to Australia and becoming an Aussie and living here. Like the amount of opportunity that there is here compared to sort of I would have had back in Brazil is chalk and cheese. Like I talk to my friends over there, and it is a completely different sort of scenario. So I am happy and extremely grateful for the life that I have, and I have nothing to complain about.
So good. That's a great way to end it.
I would even say that at one stage we may get to. I have a dream where Australia wins the Soccer World Cup, and that'd be epic. And hopefully we beat. I mean, if Australia played Brazil in the Soccer World Cup final, who are you going for, Dan? You going for Australia or Brazil?
Yeah.
Probably Brazil.
It's one thing it's like I think I have this theory that if you grow up supporting a team, it's extremely hard to root against it. Like it's extremely hard to actually. Like I sympathize with the Socceroos, but and sort of and the Australian team, but it is just something like it's really hard to switch something in your brain that sort of to tell you to do something that you grew up.
If I was Brazilian, I probably wouldn't support Australia either, mate. I mean, they play such a beautiful game. So anyway, one last question. I know said Joe, we're going to wrap it up, but Rebecca, she's a big supporter of the group. Said, do you have anything specific to keep your skills up while you aren't able to purchase? Or you have no, so what things is it starting the business?
Jumping on podcast. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. Like I was listening to your chat yesterday, Joe, with
Toddy Sloan.
Yeah,
Pizza.
So I listen to so many property related podcasts and chats on a weekly basis. At the gym, walking the dog, going to work in the car, like all that type of stuff. So I consume a lot of stuff, and that's probably kind of a bit of a segue and self-promotion on the stuff that sort of I'm working on. But there is so much content out there that the stuff that are sort of I feel that there is a bit of a gap is actually looking into all the data that you can get from all these different sort of points that of chats and that sort of that there is out there. So one of the things that we're working on beyond the two that I demo earlier is building some sort of dashboard, and this is going to come later in the year. So to the people that was sort of playing around with the QR code, we're basically building a dashboard that analyze all these different data points and videos and news and chat around property, and then mapping it out the sentiment and the mind share. So imagine that potentially there is a lot of attention in a specific area, and we're having a chat earlier about Darwin, for example, where there is a lot of activity happening in Darwin. Some of the chat is good, some of the chat is bad. So it's just sort of finding how do you get a sense of what's happening out there. Are people also sort of commenting good stuff about that specific area or not? And basically that is what we're trying to sort of build is building something that measures not only the attention that the area is getting, but also measuring is that attention sort of in the positive sense, or is that attention bringing on a negative sense? And this is just a way of complementing a lot of the data that is out there, and there is a lot of quantitative data, and like you mentioned hashtag earlier, and I know that you guys have had episodes about hashtag, and there's a lot of great tools out there that give a lot of that quantitative data. But when it comes down to that qualitative information that measures the sentiment and how people sort of behave on the back of the all the information that they absorb, there is nothing out there. So we're building something that can capture that and complement a lot of the other research tools that is out there. So that's basically what we're working on. Just stay tuned and make sure that you keep in touch. And for those the people that use the example on the QR code there on the top, so just keep in touch and we'll see some of the additional things coming up in the next few months.
Epic session, mate. I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you very much for jumping on, and we'll catch you maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. Let's go buy a property, crew. See you later.
Yeah.
Give us a 5-star on Spotify, because this is an amazing session. We're getting, I think we're at 45 now, Joe.
Wow. Fucking 5 years
I know it's
in.
happening, mate. 4.5 now. I love it. Thanks, Dan. We'll chat to you in a year's time, maybe on the 3rd of October this time.
Thanks, guys.
All those properties.